Hi to all our friends at home, all you awesome math students. I thought I'd make this video to go over the spiral review in case you had any misunderstandings or you got something wrong and you didn't know what you did wrong. So I'm going to model as if I were a third grader how I would solve each one of these problems. So I'm hoping you're looking at this video to see what you might do better next time you have these same kind of questions. Okay, so let me just get my drawing tool up here. And here we go. So the very first question is just a simple algorithm, and it's 665 plus 338. So the first step is to add my ones. Let me just see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. First step is to add my ones. So 5 ones plus 8 1 is 13 ones. Whoops, not like that size. There we go. Is 13 ones. So I put the 3 down and I regroup the 1 into the tens place. Okay, and 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 3 more is 10. Put the 0 down and regroup into the hundreds place. And then I have 6 plus 100s plus is 7, plus 3 more hundreds is 10. It's 10 hundreds, and 10 hundreds is really 1,000. So the answer there is 1,003. Okay, the next one is a simple subtraction using the algorithm. Remember, I always start with the ones place. So the ones place is right here. And I say to myself, can I take 7 ones from 6 ones? And I cannot. So where do I get more ones? I go over to the tens place. So I'm going to go to the tens place. Right now I have 7 tens. But if I unbundle 1, I'll be left with 6. Okay, the good news is instead of just 6 ones, I have 16 ones. Okay, 16 ones minus 7 ones gives me 9 ones. Now, can I take 8 tens from 6 tens? I cannot. So now I got to go to the hundreds place and I've got to unbundle. If I have 3 hundreds and I unbundle 1 into the tens, I will only have 2 left. Good news is instead of 6 tens, I now have 16 tens. So 16 tens minus 8 tens is 8, and 2 hundreds minus 100 is 1. So the correct answer for 376 minus 187 is 189. Okay, question 3 says round the following numbers to the nearest 10. So this is underlined, really important for us to know what to round numbers to, what place to round numbers to. All of these are 2-digit numbers, so it makes sense that we're rounding them to the nearest 10. So my first number is 79, so I'm going to draw a little number line here. Hopefully have room for all 3 of them. My number 79, I ask myself, how many tens are in 79? Well, there are 7 tens in 79. So how do I write 7 tens? I write 7 tens as 70. I skip count. What's 1 more 10 than 70? 80. What is halfway between 70, 80, and 80? 75. Where will 79 go on that number line? Well, we'll go really close up here to 80 because when we count, we go 79, 80. So 79 is above the midpoint. 79 is closest to 80. So I'm going to round that to 80. All right. Let's look at the next number. The next number is 65. How many tens are in 65? 6 tens. So I'm going to draw my next number line. Because there's 6 tens in there, the bottom part of my number line will be labeled 60. I count 1 more 10. 60 plus 10 is 70. Find my midpoint is 65. And 65 is the number I'm trying to round. So remember, that's halfway. And we have all agreed that when a number is halfway, it's close, it's right in between 60 and 70. So how do we round it? Well, we've all agreed that we're going to round it forward to 70. And I know my class, I told them the story about the car on the top of the hill who ran out of gas. And do you want to roll forward to get to the gas station and be at the gas station on empty where you have gas available? Or do you want to roll back home to your driveway and have your car be on empty in your driveway? So that would be a little more difficult. So we roll forward to the gas station, if that helps you. So 65 rounds to 70 then. Okay, and then the last one is 43. How many tens in 43? There are 4 tens. So my bottom number will be 40. 1 more 10 is 50. My halfway point is 45. 43 would be right about here somewhere. And it is below the midpoint. It is closest to 40, so I will round it to 40. Okay? And that's the first 3 questions on your spiral review. I'm going to clear my drawings so we can move down the screen. And let's see. Okay, the next one is a telling time one. It says write the time that is shown on the clock. So remember, little kids go first. So that means I always look at the little hand first, which is right here. Little hand is right there. And it is between the 7 and the 8. So that means the hour is 7 something. Okay, our hand goes first, little hand goes first. Then I have to count, the bigger hand is the minute hand. I got to count my minutes around the clock. And remember, we skip count by 5s. And then if it's in between the numbers on the clock, we count on by 1s. So if we do that, we start 0 is at 12. So 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. And then I got to stop there. And now I'm going to count on by 1s. And there are 21, 22, 23. So the time is 7:23. All right. The next one is just another pattern table. So I'm subtracting 20 from each one of those numbers. And so I can do this mentally because 20 is 2 tens. So I'm just going to take my tens place and say 6 tens minus 2 tens is 4 tens, 140. Again, I'm going to subtract 20 from 140. I can do that mentally. The only place it's changing is my tens place, and it's going down by 2. So that makes 120. Okay, 200 minus 20, that might be a little bit more difficult for you because there are no tens there, so it would involve unbundling or regrouping. So if you wanted to do that one, you couldn't do it mentally, and you wanted to do the algorithm, you certainly can. 0 minus 0 is 0. You can't take 2 tens from 0 tens, so you would unbundle. You would be left with 100, but you would have 10 tens. 10 tens minus 2 is 80. Your answer would be 180. Some of you might be able to do that mentally. And then the last one, 180 minus 20 is 160. Again, the only place that's changing is the tens place. It's going down by 2. All right, our next one, let's see. Our next one says write a multiplication sentence for the array, then circle the factors that represent the number of rows and draw a square around the product. Okay, so we have 3 rows of 4. So our number sentence would be 3 times 4, skip count, 4, 8, 12 equals 12. Remember, your product is your total. So we want to draw a square around the product. So we're going to draw a square around 12. It says circle the factors that represent the number of rows. Well, there are 3 rows. So the factor that represents the number of rows is the 3. Okay. We have done at least 1 or 2 of those before. So that's really testing whether or not you understand what are rows, and if you understand what a factor is, and if you understand what a product is. Oh, and I was supposed to circle this, so sorry about that. Make that a circle, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to determine whether that was the factor that represented the rows or whether that was the product. So I apologize for that. All right, last but not least, our word problem. So we're going to scroll up again. Now, remember, boys and girls, read, draw, write, what that means. We have been doing that since the beginning of the year, and a lot of you forget to do all those steps. Read means to read the problem and underline your notes. Draw means to draw some kind of visual representation to represent the problem. That's where you really do your thinking. That's where you show that you understand the problem. Write means 2 things. Write a number sentence and write a target sentence. So this particular word problem, you're going to be scored on 0 to 2 points. If you don't do all 3 steps, you can't get 2 points. And the only way to get 2 points is to do all 3 steps and get the correct answer. So if you left any of those steps out, you would only get a 1 on this problem. And depending on how much work you showed, you might get a 0 on it. Okay, so just so you know how Mrs. Miller and I decided to score this. The question says, Dawn's aquarium has 209 rocks, plants, and pieces of seaweed in it. So that is one of my notes, 209 rocks, plants, and pieces of seaweed in it. She has 187 rocks and 4 plants. How many pieces of seaweed does Dawn's aquarium have? Okay, so let's think about this. She has an aquarium, and in it she has rocks, plants, and pieces of seaweed. She has 3 different things in her aquarium. I don't know where the fish are, but she has rocks, plants, and seaweed, 3 things. So we are breaking this total of 209 down into 3 parts. What picture could you draw when you have a total and you're breaking it down into 3 parts? If you said a 3-part number bond, you are right. So this is the picture we were looking for. And we've done a lot of these. And if you think about it, it makes sense. 209 rocks, plants, and pieces of seaweed. We broke that down into rocks, plants, and seaweed. Okay. We know 187 rocks, so we'll put that in here. We know 4 plants, so we'll put that in here. And we don't know how many pieces of seaweed, so we'll put our question mark there. Now, it's difficult to solve a 3-part number bond. It really needs 2 steps. So if you remember, our first step to solving this problem is to take and put those 2 parts together. And think about it, when you put 2 things together, what do? You're adding them, right? Putting them together. So my number sentence to add those 2 would be 187 plus 4. This is your number sentence. It's written like a number or like a sentence you would see in a book, like in English. So it's written horizontally. And then if you can't do that mentally, that is fine. Over here, you can do your algorithm. But the algorithm is not a number sentence, and it doesn't satisfy the requirement of having to have a number sentence. So 7 plus 4 is 11. I need to regroup. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 100. So 187 plus 4 is 191. Now, what does 191 represent? Well, let's go back. What does 187 represent? 187 represents my rocks. What does 4 represent? It represents the plants. So when does 191 represent? Well, it represents the total of the rocks and the plants. Okay, it doesn't represent the seaweed. I'm not that close yet to finding the seaweed, but it does represent the rocks and the plants. So what am I going to do with 191 to represent that on my, or to show that on my picture? I'm going to put 191 right in here. All right, so there is the total of my rocks and plants. Still don't have my seaweed. So now I've got to figure out, I know 209 represents the total of all 3 things in the aquarium. 191 represents the rocks and the plants. So how can I find my other part? Well, if you remember, if you have a hole and you have 1 part, you're going to subtract to find the other part. It's the inverse operation. If you have 2 parts, what do? Just like we did here. You add them and put them together to get the whole. So when you have a hole in 1 part, you do just the opposite. You subtract. So my next number sentence would be taking the total of 209, subtracting 191, which is the total of the rocks and the plants that I got right here. And again, I'm going to use my algorithm over here. And you say, well, why do we have to write a number sentence? Number sentences are really important because they show you that the 2 sides are equal. The 2 sides have the same value. And you're going to be using number sentences from here on out. You used them when you were in kindergarten and 1st grade as well. So it's really important to understand the concept behind a number sentence, 2 sides that are equal. So I'm going to go back and solve this algorithm. 209 minus 191. Start with the ones. 9 minus 1 is 8. Okay, next we go to the tens column. I can't take 9 tens from 0 tens, so I have to unbundle. I'll go over to the hundreds, and I'll unbundle one of those. That will leave me with 100. But the good news is when I move that 100 into the tens place, picture it. You'll get 10 tens, those 10 rods, if you picture those. 10 minus 9 is 1. And then I go to the hundreds. 1 minus 1 is nothing. I don't have to put the 0 there. So 209 minus 191 is 18. You also might have thought of that as adding on to get your answer there. So I'll show you that in a minute. But anyways, so what does 18 represent? It represents my pieces of seaweed. So what am I left with? I read the problem, I underlined my knowns. I drew my picture right here. I did my number sentences. I needed 2 because it was a 2-step problem. And now I need my target sentence. What does the target sentence do? Well, it answers the question. So let's go back to the question. How many pieces of seaweed does Dawn's aquarium have? It has 18 pieces of seaweed. And there's your answer, okay? And that's why we encourage you when you're in class to answer our complete sentence, even if you are just answering orally, because that helps you when you go to word problem. Okay, I just want to show you one other thing here. 209 minus 191, we can find differences on a number line as well. And I kind of like this method. So if we're finding the difference between 209 and 191, we put our smaller number to the left and our bigger number to the right. Okay, and we want to find that difference from 191 to 209. So let's try to get to a friendly number. Friendly numbers end in 0. If I add, let's see, about 9 to 191, What am I at? I'm at 200. Okay, I'm at 200 and I got to get to 209. I can do that in one jump because that's easy for me mentally. That's 9. So I got from 191 to 209 in 2 jumps of 9. How do I find that total distance? I add those 2 jumps. 9 plus 9 equals 18, which is exactly what I got here and here when I did the algorithm. Okay, just a strategy I like to share with students in case they want to choose that when they're solving subtraction equations. Okay, all right, boys and girls, I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you have a great weekend. Okay, thank you.